Hello, and welcome to today's issue of Cracking the Cryptic. We're going to have a look at Thursday's puzzle now. I have solved it already. It took me about 14 minutes, and it's a very good puzzle today. Pretty difficult, and there's a lot of interesting clues, some quite original clues as well. So I thought what we'd do is we'd do one of the episodes where I sort of talk through the clues, and you have the opportunity to pause and then I'll give the answer. But I'm not going to start in the top left, simply because the top left was very hard for me anyway, and I'm not sure it's it's the natural place that you'd get into this particular puzzle. So I'm going to try and jump around in the way I did. So you'll sort of progress with the solve in the way that I did, and I think that way we'll work on some of the easier clues first. So you can see the cursors there at 6 across. So let's talk about that. So spread from Union, journal kept back. So hopefully you'll be familiar enough now to think that the definition here is probably the word spread. You can see that the word from there is suggesting that we need to use the rest of the clue as wordplay in order to give us a word for spread. So we need a 5-letter word for spread. We've then got Union, journal kept back. So you can see the kept back there. That looks like a reversal instruction, and hopefully you're familiar enough from the earlier episodes to remember that union is very often a trade union as opposed to a marriage union, that sort of thing. So trade union is very often TU. So we need a 3-letter word for a journal as well. And we need to reverse that combination of letters somehow. So have a think about that. I'm going to pause and I'm going to type in the answer. Gamut. So the journal there is a mag. And that was the first clue that I solved. I mucked around a bit on the top left and didn't really gain any traction. Let's have a look at 6 down. This isn't too bad. Intelligence, something parents pass on mostly. So you're looking for a 4-letter word there for something your parents pass on to you in a slightly tangential sense, I suppose, and a 3-letter word for intelligence. It's not that common a word. It's a very common word in crosswords, but don't be surprised if you're not a regular crossword solver if you haven't seen the word before. So pause. The answer is Jen. Let's not look at 7 down. It's the next one. I'll have a look at 10 across. This was, I think, my 3rd one in. So wretched idler not pruning old bit of plants. Okay, so when I read this clue and I see the word wretched, I'm desperately looking for an anagram from something after that. It's such a familiar anagram indicator. And we can see that if we use the letters of idler and then the letters of not, pruning the old, so not without the O being an abbreviation for old very commonly, we get 7 letters, and it's those 7 letters you need to anagram to give you a bit of a plant or bit of plant. So have a think about that, and I'll put the answer in now. Oops, if I could type, I'll just put the answer in now. Okay, so tendril. Let's have a look at 12 across, because again there were a few anagrams, quite a few anagrams actually in this puzzle. That was probably the way to make progress, because some of the other clues were really hard. So intricate craft displayed in novel Eliot penned. Now again, I think the more you do crosswords, the more you'll look at sub-phrases like novel Eliot penned, and it's not a natural construction that you'd normally see in a sentence. So it's almost certain that the setter needed to use these very particular letters for some reason, and therefore you should very often be thinking anagram. So we need 11 letters, and you can see that you get 11 letters from Eliot penned, and the word novel could is implying you need to do something new with these letters. So that looks lovely. So we need an anagram of Eliot penned, and it's all going to be an intricate craft. So 11 letters long, and this is craft, not in the sense of a a complicated spacecraft or something like that, but more in a sort of arts and crafts sense. So I think, and the answer is needlepoint. Okay. Let's have a look at 7 down. This wasn't actually the next one I solved, but it's a lovely clue, so we'll take a look at it. Theory from revolutionary Frenchmen with half a dozen sheep. Now this actually took me quite a while to pass, as in to sort of understand really what was going on. I could see what the answer probably was, but I mistakenly thought the definition was theory from revolutionary, because it sort of is. Whereas actually I think that the way this breaks down is it's a 7-letter word for a theory, and then we need to reverse a collection of letters being a Frenchman. Well, Frenchman is only really ever 2 things in crosswords. It's either the letter M, being an abbreviation for Monsieur, or sometimes you see René, which is simply because it's a nice collection of letters for the setter to use. So here I can tell you we're looking for an M, and then with half a dozen sheep, question mark. Well, you're going to have a think about how you might be able to create 6 letters that would give you an expression for half a dozen sheep. In this unusual instance, half a dozen is not VI, so it's not the Roman numeral, so I certainly spent a few moments thinking it probably was. So have a think about that, certainly in the context of the word theory. The answer is Marxism. And you can see there you've got M for Monsieur, and then 6, half a dozen, sheep, ram, all reversed. So quite a clever wordplay there, not easy. 15 cross, on the other hand, this was sort of easy. So where pupils get together, a learner's relaxed. Now, there are 2 ways one could read the clue here to try and work out what the definition would be. It could be where pupils get together, and then it could be the letters AL for A and then learner being the L you see on a learner plate, followed by a 6-letter word for relaxed. Okay, that would be one completely natural way to read this clue. The other way would be, which is in fact the correct way in this instance, is to find 6 letters which would be where pupils get together. Then the AL would come at the end of the clue, with the whole thing being an 8-letter word for relaxed. So have a think about that. And I'm going to type the answer now. Oops, informal. So there you go, pupils get together in a form. So that's what's going on there. Now we've got, I think, enough letters to look at 8 down. So rats count on dogs being heard. Okay. So you should be familiar now with expressions like being heard. We're looking for some sort of homophone there, something that sounds like something else. And the fact that that being heard is at the end of the clue suggests that the definition must be at the other end. So, therefore we're looking for a word for rats. And then the way this one actually breaks down is we're looking for a 4-letter word which means to count, followed by a 5-letter word which sounds like a word for dogs. Okay, now hopefully there's enough letters in there that you should be able to think about the correct definition here. So pause, and here's the answer. Telltales. So tails being, if you dog someone, you tail them, T-A-I-L, sort of in a harassing sense. Let's have a look at 5 down, because we've got some letters for that. Disconcerting seaman holds officer up. So again, in the middle of the clue there, we have an instruction, holds. So that suggests that the wordplay here is coming from a word for seaman, holding, probably an abbreviation for an officer, reversed. Now there are lots of abbreviations for officers, but one of the more common is that for lieutenant or lieutenant, depending on your preference, which would be LT. And here you can see in the grid, it looks like we could actually put an abbreviation there for a reversal of LT. So let's do that. So we need a 6-letter word for a seaman, and the whole thing means disconcerting. So have a think. And the answer is rattling. So a rating, a naval rating, is a word for a sailor. But maybe I don't know how familiar people who don't do crosswords would be with that word, but you do see it from time to time. The other very common expressions for seaman being mate, AB for able seaman, and tar, T-A-R. A nice girl loves a sailor. Now, let's have a look for another clue that we should look at. Let's have a look at 14 down, because that gives us a lot of letters, and I did solve this around this stage in the puzzle. So Cook used his hands to provide protection from heat. And so it's a beautiful surface. First thing to say is the setter has done a fantastic job here, because that, that reads very naturally. So we have to use our own skills now to try and work out how we might be able to pass the clue correctly. And the clue, I think, is in the words to provide. So that suggests that we have to do something with the wordplay Cook uses hands, and that will provide us with a 9-letter word, which means protection from heat. Now here, cleverly, the Cook here needs to be read as a sort of, in a verbal sense rather than as a noun. So this is a beautiful piece of misdirection. You need to cook the letters of use his hands. So Cook is an anagram indicator. And you should pause now. And the anagram of use his hands is sunshades. Okay, and now this was nice actually, because there are a couple of other solvable clues here, and these are crosses. So I will let you have a look at those in your own time. I'm going to spend the rest of the video just talking about one or two of the other interesting clues. This clue I'm still a bit struggling with actually, because I can't quite understand the wordplay. So doctor west of desert, heading off light rain. Okay, well we know that doctor is very often an abbreviated to DR, so let's put that in. West of desert, heading off. Okay, so doctor, the way I read west of, I think it's saying that the position of the doctor is to the west of a 6-letter word for a desert or desert without its first letter, for heading off, with the whole thing meaning light rain. So 7-letter word for light rain. Okay, drizzle. Well, it is the answer. So is it fizzle without the first letter? Does fizzle mean desert? Does it fizzle to desert? Maybe. Maybe there's another word that I don't know that begins with a that ends with isle here, which is correct. But anyway, sorry about that. It's quite tricky to pass what's going on there. Maybe one of you will write in and tell us. Okay, and now we should have a look at 26 across, just simply because it is such an unusual thing to see. You probably only see this once every 2 or 3 weeks in the Times. So we've talked before about how, there's normally a definition in a clue. Sometimes there's a double definition clue. So here, abandon fight. You've only got two words in the clue, so we know it's a double definition. It's a word that means abandon, and it's a word that means fight. Here we have an unusual animal. We have a triple definition clue. So we need a 3-letter word that means nothing, it means close up, and it means to tear. So I'll let you think about that in your own time, but just to explain what's going on with that quite unusual clue. This made me laugh. The curry clue here. It's not meaning curry in a... I'll just give you the clue that it's not using curry in a sort of something you eat sense. It's using curry in an Olympic sense. And that's all I'm going to tell you about that. I'll give you one more, just to give you a start in this top left corner. Bard in region's capital. You're looking for a 5-letter word for a bard, as in a poet. It's the actual name of a poet, in this case quite an old poet. And we've perhaps seen before, in region's capital is being the wordplay. I spent a long time thinking I was looking for, you know, the capital of a state of America or something like that, which would also happen to be a poet. In fact, this is not saying that. We need a 4-letter word that means in, followed by region's capital, which is the letter R. So it should be using in an initial sense.
I can't connect to your Wi-Fi network.
So
you can find setup instructions
Alexa's
in the
gone
help
mad.
section of your Alexa
Shush,
app.
Alexa. And pause, and the answer is Homer. Home being in. So hopefully that'll help you get a grip on the rest of the clues in that top left corner, and we'll see you again tomorrow.